Welcome to episode 5 of the Insurance Dudes podcast. I'm Craig Pretzinger, and in this week's episode, Jason Feltman and I continue to talk about the ups and downs of agency ownership, what one bad staffer can do to your culture, and we start to talk a little bit about some ALR. How's that get you? Are you pretty stoked? It moves us, that's for sure. This is Insurance Dudes, and we are pumped you're here.
Like, it's amazing how long it can take to even catch some of the mistakes.
Right.
And then what that does to retention. And now, like, we finally worked out of it. I mean, my retention, and I have a fairly good sized book. My retention is up 2% over last year. I mean, that's significant.
That's awesome.
You
Yeah.
know, and it's not, I have less staff, but I have a solid staff, right? I've had as many as 12. I had 12 with 6 telemarketers, and so 18. We had 6 telemarketers at night, and then the 12 LSPs, and that's like I mean, that was insane, right?
Yeah.
Trying to manage that, that involved a lot of drinking to be able to manage that, but it was easier for people to hide. Right. So somebody could produce 8,000 and well, they're doing something. Like here, when there's 3 producers, everybody's got to do their 30.
Right.
If they don't do their 30, everybody knows that they didn't do their 30,000.
Yep. Yeah.
And then there's a talk, then it's about activity. Then it's, and so that's another thing is introducing that accountability was significant. And there was a long time where that, for me, it didn't click, and I didn't like to do it because I didn't realize how effective it is. And now it's my favorite part of the week. So every Thursday, it's 15 minutes with each staff, even the CSRs, to go over their numbers. Like, so Debbie's is my lead CSR. Like, she doesn't have any sales goals per se, but we go over how many, what is your goal for Google reviews this week? How many did you get? What is your goal for ALR? How many apps did you get submitted? So everybody does have to have 3 ALR apps submitted. So whether it's, some kind of financial that gets submitted or an IPS that gets submitted, an app taken. So it doesn't have to sell. It just has to be inked. And
nice.
that's been a significant change in that process because we've done, and I've had the same EFS for 8 years now. So we've tried everything. And we've tried by referrals, we've tried paying for referrals, we've tried all this stuff. The thing that has been the most effective and got us the most results has been, you have to get 3 apps submitted or you get 0 bonus.
That's awesome. What kind of bonus? Is it a monthly or
monthly?
Yearly?
Monthly.
That's awesome.
So, but that's everybody. So even the producers, they're like, kicking and screaming. I said, it is what it is. If the office doesn't get it, Allstate hacks off 10%, and that's the mortgage, right?
Yep.
So sorry, it is what it is. Blame it on Allstate.
So, and tell me about how that started and how you implemented it and how did you get it to work? Because obviously it's working. How many did you submit last year?
Last year it was really weird because last year flipped from where we had a ton of IPS to a lot more production credit. We did a lot of mutual funds and VAs last year. And so now, and then the ones that I had to get rid of weren't producing ALR results. So it was
Gotcha.
a lot of these guys that I have now were able to follow some of the processes. I know you've heard of the Build a Wall.
Yep.
You've seen that.
Yep.
Spoiler alert, there is a secret web-based Build a Wall that is basically available. But and we're going to do another thing about that.
Uh-huh.
But that implementing that and having the requirements. So what I did was I listened to my team, right? Some people in some offices like saying, here's a form, use this. It has all the stuff. They may say, no way, right? Like,
yeah,
been been at this Allstate forever. They may not do it. They may want paper. That's fine. Use a paper thing, but you've got to have some kind of something, like even the green sheets, right? People have used the green sheets and they've had success with the green sheets. For me, it's a little old school. And I like having the form because it's live. I have the data. We're able to go back to the data. We don't lose the papers.
Right.
But so requiring that they do that, and that their comp is tied to, if they don't get them, they get no bonus. And nobody that works for me can afford to not make bonus.
Yeah.
So we created a pay structure. I said, look, there has to be incentive for you to hit bonus, and there has to be a penalty if you don't do this thing that we have to have as an agency. Like, this agency won't be here if we don't get the ALR.
Right.
It's a fact, right? And that's the same for everybody. Like it's remarkable how many agents are at 9% right now, and all they got to do is tweak a little tiny bit of process. I mean, I'd just be writing basic terms all day, because that's another thing. You can write tons of basic terms. We've begun. Like in December, that's when we started ramping up IPS again.
Mhm.
December we did 10 IPS.
Nice.
And it was 6 of them were basic terms, but they're so simple.
Right.
You're just on the phone with them. Hey,
would you say they're basic?
I'd say they're pretty basic. Definitely.
We're going to stop here, have a quick 30-second break. We will be right back.
Hi, my name is Myra. I'm an agency owner here in San Antonio, Texas. I opened up a scratch agency in 2018. So we were falling behind, and I just knew something had to change. So I hired Agency Vault for a private coaching session with my team. The biggest takeaway was having a specific framework for selling. We've been able to increase our sales by 40%. So I highly recommend Agency Vault and working with them to incorporate this framework into your agency.
Thank you, Myra. And now back to the show.
That's awesome, man. That's good to hear, because I think a lot of people don't believe that can happen. So, I mean, how many staff do you have?
5.
5, and all 5 of them are pretty much hitting their 3 apps a month.
We introduced this in December, and I did a kind of a slow rollout because I knew that I'd get pushback. And in my old age, I'm becoming more patient and realizing you can't just jump in the speedboat and go at 200 miles an hour. Like, you have to slowly ramp up. Right. And so it's December. Hey, we're going to test this and you guys have to do it, but I'm not going to pull your bonus away. Just keep in mind in January, it's going to be go time. And then in January, I knew that I was going to let it go in January, but in February there was no option. So in January, mid-January, we had our kickoff dinner, and that's where we talked it over again. But again, usually it seems to me resentment and anger and all these different emotions that come up when stuff doesn't go the way they want, it's a lack of communication, right? So if we don't over communicate what our expectations are, then that's on us, right? Like, I want them to do this, but then you tell them once, they don't remember. They're doing a million things out there, right? We're hitting them constantly with a million different things, and the clients are too. So that was where this was much more effective in doing it this way. And now so February, everybody got 3 apps submitted.
That's awesome, man. You can't ask.
And it was because it was, and I was on them every week. And I mean, I was in Japan for a week. I was out somewhere else. So I'm not even there, but I'm using Slack, which is a way that we communicate. I'm in there and just like, hey, we're all meeting on Zoom. Everybody's doing their one-on-ones. It doesn't matter where I am. I will meet with them regardless of where I am. 15 minutes. What's working, what's not, what can we do better, and what are your numbers? Boom, next one. And they love it. Like they really, unless they're lying to me, and I don't think they are. I mean, they like those meetings. Like they're like, oh, like if
that's awesome, man. I think you get as an agency owner, I think you get kind of in a routine and you expect everybody's kind of doing their own thing, and then you kind of let that meeting go, and then you let the next one go, and things spiral way out of control.
It's a slippery slope. It's definitely slippery. So that's where we have to be true to ourselves and hold ourselves accountable. Like I've become very, very calendar focused, and it's all on the calendar. Like if it's on the calendar, I don't typically miss it. Which is why we pushed this back. It wasn't on it's like, I got to put it on the calendar. Right.
Yeah.
And so it's just because there's too many,
cool, man.
I know from where I sit that I get interrupted all day long.
Mm-hmm.
I'm certain that, a new agent or somebody that has a couple $1 million book that has 1 or 2 staff, like they're just getting blown up.
Yeah.
And so if you don't have tight processes, you don't understand how to prioritize, because that was me. I couldn't prioritize. I was like trying to answer every text, email, and call all at the same time as they're coming in. And that's a recipe for insanity.
Yeah. Process is king.
And
it's funny because a lot of times when you're developing a process or thinking about implementing something like you were talking about, sitting down with your staff or whatever it takes, it seems like that'll take a lot of time, but it's almost the opposite. Like putting that time in creates less time of having to worry, having to do reconnaissance on whatever.
Right. Like we ran out of the bank slips, the little deposit slips.
Yeah.
And so somebody said, hey, how do I order more of these? I mean, I have no idea. Right. And so I think the last person that ordered those is no longer here. And we didn't have anything written down anywhere, and nobody knows how to do it. So all of a sudden you have 4 people trying to figure out how to do something that generates 0 revenue for the agency.
Yeah.
It's just like the ultimate distraction. Right. So I said, okay, everybody time out, stop working on this. I'll handle it. And I thought, okay, I'm going to go to the one person who will be doing this going forward. We're going to sit down and we're going to talk about what you need to do, because we don't know. We'll find out. And then we're going to write it down. We're going to put it on our shared drive, or I'll probably upload it in the agency vault. And then it's there. Like, here's the process. Right. And it's like, but there's a million of these.
Yeah.
But if you can tackle them and record them, write them down, turn it into digital, and maybe even record a video of it while you're talking about doing it, then it's done. So instead of saying, hey, this is how we do it, now let's, down the road, let's make this process. It's like, no. Now, make it now. Yeah. And then file it away, and it's done.
Yep. That makes sense.
I don't know why I'm yelling at you.
Procrastination is the worst.
The worst.
It's the enemy of any business owner.
It is. And it's easy to do because there's too many things coming in.
Yep.
I think there's a difference between there's a difference that gets missed between procrastination and prioritization.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you can't answer every email. It just isn't going to happen. And you can't stress about not answering every email. You have to look at which ones are high priority and which ones aren't, and then work through them, or delegate them out or whatever.
Yeah.
But
yeah, it's true.
But not say I'm not going to look at my email.
Right.
What I said earlier.
Well, cool, man. Thanks for sharing about everything. It's good. It's comforting to hear, especially that, everybody has problems and stuff that goes on in an agency. And it's like everybody, you see a lot of people posting the good or talking about the good, but there's a lot of rough stuff that if we talked about a little bit more often, probably help each other out with, and it would definitely
100%. And that's what the point of this podcast is we bring on more people and different guests. And I know that we have a couple ringers set up for the next couple of weeks. And so far more interesting to me. And what we're going to bring them in, they're going to provide some insight. You can take it, you can leave it, but hopefully you leave that conversation in a better position.
So we're going to stop it here. This is Craig Pretzinger, back with you. We're going to stop it here. We did get through about another hour and a half of chatting. The roles flipped. We ended up actually interviewing Jason a little bit, and we're going to get to that in the next couple weeks. But we hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, please comment, hit us with a subscribe on iTunes or on Google Play, and we will see you next week.